We begin tonight with a breath. Just one long, slow breath, drawn in through the nose and released through the mouth. Let it carry the weight of the day with it. Let it take the tension from your jaw, the tightness from your shoulders, the restless energy from your fingertips. You do not need to hold on to anything right now. You do not need to solve anything, plan anything, remember anything. All of that belongs to the morning. Tonight belongs to rest and to a story. The story we are going to follow tonight is about a wanderer, a scholar, a pilgrim, a quiet soul who travelled across a dying kingdom not to save it, not to conquer it, but simply to understand it, to see it one last time before the end. His name is Quirrel, and his journey through the kingdom of Hallownest is one of the most gentle, most bittersweet, most human stories ever told in a video game. It is a story about memory and forgetting, about duty and freedom, about the strange, aching beauty of returning to a place you once called home, and finding it changed beyond recognition, and yet still, somehow, beautiful. You do not need to stay awake for all of it. That is not what this is for. If you drift off somewhere in the middle of Quirrel, sitting by an underground lake, or wandering through a city of endless rain, that is exactly right. That is the whole point. My voice will keep going, and the story will continue, and you can let it carry you wherever you need to go. Just close your eyes whenever you feel ready. Let your body grow heavy. Let the world above you fade into something distant and unimportant. We're going underground tonight, deep beneath the surface, into a ruined kingdom of insects and scholars and forgotten gods. And we are going there with the gentlest companion Hallownest has ever known. Before we begin, if you enjoy these quiet, lore-driven stories, the kind that are designed to wrap around you like a blanket and carry you gently towards sleep, I would be so grateful if you could leave a like on this video. It genuinely helps other people find these stories when they need them most, late at night, scrolling through the dark, looking for something peaceful to fall asleep to. And if you have a moment, leave a comment and tell me where you are listening from tonight. I always love reading those in the morning, seeing how many different corners of the world fell asleep to the same quiet story. And if you want more of these, consider subscribing so you never miss one. But there is no pressure at all. If you are already comfortable, if your eyes are already closed, if moving feels like too much effort, then just stay exactly where you are. The story is about to begin. Let us go down. To understand Quirrel, we must first understand the world he returns to, and the person who shaped everything he would become. We must begin with Monomon the teacher, because Quirrel's story does not exist without hers. They are bound together, teacher and student, in a way that transcends the ordinary bonds of mentorship. What Monomon did for Quirrel, and what she asked of him in return, forms the foundation upon which his entire journey rests. Monomon was one of the great minds of Hallownest, a scholar of extraordinary intellect who dedicated her life to the pursuit of knowledge. She lived and worked in the Teacher's Archives, a structure built in the misty, dreamlike expanse of Fog Canyon, surrounded by drifting jellyfish and pools of luminous acid. The archives were her sanctuary, her laboratory, her library. They held the accumulated research and wisdom of a lifetime spent studying the natural world, the properties of soul, the behaviour of the creatures that inhabited the kingdom's deeper regions. Monomon was not a warrior, not a ruler, not a politician. She was a thinker, an observer, someone who believed that understanding was the highest form of engagement with the world. And Quirrel was her student, her apprentice, the one she chose out of all the bugs in Hallownest to stand beside her, to learn from her, to carry her work forward. We do not know exactly how their relationship began, do not know what drew Monomon to this particular bug, or what qualities she saw in him that others might have overlooked. But we know that the bond between them was deep, genuine, and profoundly important to both of them. Quirrel was not just an assistant filing papers in the archives. He was her companion in discovery, her partner in the long, patient work of understanding a kingdom that was far more complex and mysterious than most of its inhabitants ever realized. Think about that for a moment. Think about having a teacher like that. Someone who does not simply tell you what to think, but teaches you how to see. Someone who opens your eyes to the wonder hidden in ordinary things, who shows you that the world is endlessly fascinating if you know how to look at it carefully enough. That is what Monomon was for Quirrel. She taught him to be curious, to be observant, to approach the unknown not with fear but with wonder. She shaped the fundamental orientation of his mind, the way he would engage with the world for the rest of his life. Even when he could not remember her name, even when her face had faded from his memory entirely, the way of seeing that she gave him remained. It was written into the deepest part of who he was, too deep for even forgetting to erase. But Monomon was not only a scholar. She was also one of the three dreamers, one of the beings who agreed to seal themselves in eternal sleep, to maintain the locks on the Hollow Knight's prison. The Pale King had created the Hollow Knight, a vessel meant to contain the radiance, the old light, the forgotten god whose infection was consuming Hallownest from within. The vessel was sealed inside the Black Egg Temple, and 3 dreamers were needed to maintain that seal, to keep the prison locked, to hold the infection at bay through the power of their sleeping minds. Lurien the Watcher agreed out of devotion to the Pale King. Hera the Beast agreed in exchange for a child, for Hornet, and Monomon agreed because she understood with her scholar's mind that it was necessary, not ideal, not permanent, not even particularly fair, but necessary. Monomon approached her duty the way she approached everything, with careful, methodical preparation. She understood what becoming a dreamer meant. She understood that she would sleep forever, that she would never wake, that her archives would gather dust and her research would go unfinished. She understood that one day, if the seal failed, someone would need to come and kill her in her sleep to break the seal and allow a new solution to be attempted. She accepted all of this, but she also did something the other dreamers did not do. She prepared for the eventuality of her own death, not by resisting it, but by making it possible. This is where Quirrel's story truly begins, in the moment when Monomon looked at her student, the person she had mentored and cared for and shaped into the curious, gentle scholar he had become, and made a decision that would define both their lives forever. She gave him her mask. Monomon's mask was not merely a piece of equipment or a symbol of office. It was a physical component of her seal, an additional layer of protection that she had devised. By placing her mask on Quirrel and sending him away from Hallownest, she created a safeguard. As long as Quirrel carried the mask outside the kingdom, the seal on Monomon would have an extra layer of security. But more than that, or perhaps because of that, the mask would protect Quirrel himself. It would shield him from the infection, keep him safe in a world that was slowly being consumed by orange light and mindless rage. But the mask came with a cost. When Quirrel left Hallownest, when he crossed beyond the borders of the kingdom and into the lands outside, the world beyond stripped his memories away. The lands outside Hallownest are described as places that erode the minds of those who venture into them, places where thought and memory and identity dissolve like mist in morning light. Quirrel lost almost everything. He forgot who he was. He forgot where he'd come from. He forgot Monomon, forgot the archives, forgot his years of study and companionship and purpose. He became a wanderer without a past, moving through the world with nothing but a vague sense of curiosity, a deep and innate love of discovery, and a mask on his face that he could not remember receiving. Try to imagine that for a moment. Imagine forgetting the person who meant the most to you. Imagine forgetting the place where you were happiest, the work that gave your life meaning, the face of the one who taught you everything you know. Imagine carrying a gift from them, wearing it every day, feeling its weight and its warmth, but having no idea who gave it to you or why. That was Quirrel's existence for years, wandering, curious, kind but fundamentally incomplete, a scholar without a library, a student without a teacher, a traveller without a destination. And Monomon knew this would happen. She knew that sending Quirrel away with the mask would cost him his memories, his identity, his sense of self. She did it anyway, because it was the only way to protect both the seal and the person she cared about most. She could not protect him from the grief of knowing what was coming, the grief of knowing that one day his teacher would need to die, so she gave him a different kind of protection. She gave him forgetting. She spared him the years of anticipation, the weight of waiting for a loss he could see approaching but could not prevent. Forgetting was a mercy, perhaps the greatest mercy Monomon could offer, wrapped in the cruelest possible delivery. Let your breathing slow. Let each exhale carry a little more tension away from your body. Somewhere, a scholar sits in her archives, surrounded by the work of a lifetime, preparing to sleep forever. Somewhere, her student walks through unfamiliar lands, wearing a mask he does not remember, carrying a purpose he cannot name. Their story is just beginning, even though it began a long, long time ago. For years, Quirrel wandered. The game does not tell us where he went or what he did during those years outside Hallownest. We can only imagine, filling in the gaps with what we know about his character, about his curiosity, about the fundamental orientation of his personality that survived even when his memories did not. He was still Quirrel, even without his past. He was still the bug who looked at unfamiliar things with wonder rather than fear, who approached strangers with openness rather than suspicion, who found beauty in places others might overlook. Perhaps he explored other kingdoms, other civilizations, other ruins. Perhaps he sat by rivers in places far from Hallownest and watched the water move and felt, without knowing why, that rivers mattered to him in some way he could not articulate. Perhaps he met other travellers, shared meals, told stories that were not quite his own because he had no stories of his own to tell. Perhaps there were nights when he sat alone under unfamiliar skies and felt a pull, a tug, a quiet, insistent voice at the back of his mind whispering that there was somewhere he needed to be, something he needed to do, someone he needed to find. That pull grew stronger over time, as the seals on the Hollow Knight's prison weakened, as the infection began to leak out more aggressively, as Monomon's sleeping mind reached across vast distances like a hand in the dark. Quirrel felt it. He didn't understand it, could not name it, could not trace it to any specific memory or desire, but he felt it. A calling, a need to move, to travel, to go somewhere specific that he could not quite identify. It was not a command, not an order. It was something softer, something more like homesickness for a home he could not remember, like missing someone whose name he had forgotten, like wanting to return to a place he was not even sure existed. The official Hollow Knight comic, titled Quirrel, depicts part of this return journey. It shows Quirrel approaching the borders of Hallownest, encountering another bug named Boone along the way. He saves Boone from danger because that is who Quirrel is, the kind of person who helps without calculating the cost, who extends kindness without expecting anything in return. Near the entrance to Hallownest, Quirrel encounters Hornet, the protector of the kingdom, the sharp-edged guardian who tests everyone who approaches. Hornet confronts him, wary as she always is of newcomers, but when she sees the mask he's wearing, Monomon's mask, she recognizes it. She understands what it means, who he must be, what his return signifies. She allows him to pass, and so Quirrel enters Hallownest, drawn by a pull he cannot explain, wearing a mask whose significance he cannot remember, carrying a purpose so deeply buried that it feels less like a mission and more like instinct. He descends into the ruins of a kingdom he once called home, and he finds it transformed. The Hallownest he returns to is not the Hallownest he left. It is a place of silence and infection, of empty streets and wandering husks, of beauty preserved in amber alongside decay so thorough it has become its own kind of landscape. The kingdom is dying, or perhaps already dead, sustained only by the fading power of the dreamer's seal and the scattered survivors who cling to their routines in the wreckage of everything they once knew. But here is the remarkable thing about Quirrel, the quality that makes him one of the most beloved characters in all of video games. He does not meet this ruined world with despair. He meets it with wonder. Where other characters see only death and loss and the end of everything, Quirrel sees mystery, beauty, history, fascination. He looks at the ruins of Hallownest and sees not what they have become, but what they were, and what they still are beneath the decay. He approaches the fallen kingdom the way a scholar approaches an ancient text, not to judge it or mourn it, but to understand it, to appreciate its complexity, to marvel at the sheer scope of what was built here even as he walks among its ruins. This is the gift Monomon gave him. Not just the mask, not just the forgetting, but the way of seeing, the curiosity, the capacity for wonder, the ability to find beauty in broken things, meaning in lost places, fascination in the very process of decay and transformation. Monomon taught Quirrel to see the world as endlessly interesting, and even after he forgot her name, her face, her voice, the way she laughed, the way she held her pen, the way she tilted her head when she was thinking about something complex, even after all of that was gone, the way of seeing remained. It was the last thing she gave him, and the one thing the world could not take away. The first place most players encounter Quirrel is outside the Black Egg Temple, in the Forgotten Crossroads. The temple is a massive ancient structure, sealed and mysterious, radiating a strange warmth that hints at the imprisoned being within. Quirrel is standing before it, gazing up at its surface with undisguised fascination. He does not know what the temple contains, does not remember the Hollow Knight, or the Dreamers, or the Seal, or the Infection. He only knows that this structure is extraordinary, that it speaks of a civilization capable of immense feats, that it holds secrets he finds irresistible. When the knight approaches this silent little vessel who is also a returnee, also drawn back to Hallownest by forces they do not fully understand, Quirrel greets them with genuine warmth. He introduces himself as a fellow traveller, someone with an obsession for uncharted places. He speaks of the temple with reverence and excitement, noting the strange marks on its surface, wondering whether this great stone egg can be opened, expressing his delight at the mysteries that lie waiting to be discovered. This is how Quirrel speaks, always with warmth, always with curiosity, always treating the night, this small, silent, voiceless creature, as a companion worthy of respect and conversation. One of the most endearing things about Quirrel is that he never seems bothered by the night's silence. He never demands responses, never grows frustrated by the lack of dialogue, never seems to need anything from the night other than their presence. He talks because talking is how he processes the world, how he makes sense of what he is seeing, how he connects with the only other living soul he keeps encountering in this vast empty place. And when the night says nothing in return, Quirrel accepts it with grace, with humour, with a kind of gentle affection that suggests he finds the silence not off-putting, but charming. If you use the dream nail on Quirrel at the Black Egg Temple, you catch a fragment of his subconscious thought, a familiar warmth, he thinks. So close to me. He is feeling something, sensing something, a connection to this place that his conscious mind cannot explain. The mask on his face is resonating with proximity to the seal it was once part of, to the dreamer it was taken from, to the purpose it was created to serve. Quirrel does not know any of this. He only feels warmth, familiarity, the sense that he is close to something important, something that matters, something that has been calling him home. Let your eyes stay closed. Let the image of that ancient temple settle in your mind, a great sealed egg in the depths of a forgotten kingdom, and a small scholar standing before it, looking up filled with wonder. You do not need to remember what happens next. Just rest in the moment. Rest in Quirrel's wonder. From the Black Egg Temple, Quirrel's journey takes him deeper into Hallownest, following paths that mirror the knight's own exploration, but always maintaining his own pace, his own reasons, his own trajectory through the ruins. You encounter him in many places throughout the kingdom, and each meeting reveals a little more about who he is, what he is feeling, what he is slowly beginning to remember. In Greenpath you find him near the Lake of Un, a place of verdant calm where ancient roots drink from waters that still hold the memory of a sleeping god. Un is one of the old higher beings, a creature of growth and change, and the lake that bears her name is one of the most peaceful locations in Hallownest. Quirrel is here, cleaning his nail, resting beside the water, taking a moment of respite. He speaks of the lake's beauty, of its calm depth, of the wonder of what might lie beneath. He notes the presence of a moss knight nearby, these fungal warriors that still patrol Greenpath with the devotion that has outlasted the kingdom they were meant to protect. Quirrel observes them without hostility, without judgment, with the scholar's instinct to understand rather than fight. Greenpath itself is a place of remarkable survival. Even as the infection consumes much of Hallownest, turning minds and bodies into husks of what they were, Greenpath endures. The plants continue to grow. The water continues to flow. The ancient spiritual presence of Un continues to pulse through the roots and leaves and mosses that carpet every surface. It is a place where life insists on itself, where growth continues not because anyone commands it, but because growing is what living things do. Quirrel recognizes this, responds to it. He is drawn to places of endurance, places where something beautiful persists despite the circumstances that should have destroyed it. Perhaps because he is that kind of thing himself, something that persists, something that continues, something that keeps growing in the direction of light even when the light is fading. The dream nail reveals his thoughts here too. The call, he thinks, it grows stronger. What is it I seek here? The pull is intensifying. Every step deeper into Hallownest brings him closer to whatever is calling him, brings the fragments of his buried past closer to the surface. He does not resist it, does not fear it. He simply notices it the way he notices everything, with attention and curiosity, accepting the mystery of his own experience as another fascinating puzzle to be explored. In the Queen Station, one of the old transit hubs of Hallownest, where the last stag once carried passengers through tunnels that now lie dark and empty, Quirrel marvels at the engineering. He speaks of the network of tunnels with admiration, recognizing the skill and ambition of the builders who created this system. He sees the echoes of a bustling civilization in the silence of the abandoned station, finding beauty in the infrastructure that outlasts the people who built it. There is something almost archaeological about the way Quirrel engages with these spaces, treating them as sites of discovery rather than scenes of loss. Where others might weep at the emptiness, Quirrel reads the architecture like a language, finding meaning in the way the stone was cut, the way the tunnels were laid, the way even the decay has its own kind of narrative. In the Mantis village, Quirrel encounters the proud warriors who guard the border between the fungal wastes and Deepnest. The Mantis Lords are among the few groups in Hallownest who resisted the infection through sheer discipline and willpower, maintaining their culture and their honour even as everything around them crumbled. Quirrel admires them. He speaks of their ferocity and their pride, their rare quality of maintaining conviction in a desolate world. He also offers the knight a piece of practical advice, suggesting that if they intend to challenge the lords, their current nail might be insufficient. He has heard of a nailsmith in the old capital, a craftsman who could strengthen the knight's weapon. It is a small moment, but it reveals something important about Quirrel. He is not just an observer, he's also a friend, someone who pays attention to the people around him, who notices when they might need help, who offers guidance without condescension, without expectation, simply because helping is what you do when you care about someone. In the City of Tears, the old capital of Hallownest, where rain falls eternally through the stone ceiling from the lake above, collecting in pools that reflect a light that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at once, Quirrel sits on a bench, just sitting, looking, listening to the rain. The City of Tears is one of the most hauntingly beautiful locations in the game, a place of perpetual melancholy, where the architecture of a great civilization stands preserved in endless moisture, every surface gleaming, every street reflecting the sky it cannot see. The rain sounds like grief that has been going on so long it has become ambient, become atmospheric, become something the city simply is rather than something happening to it. Quirrel is moved by this place. He wonders aloud where all this water truly comes from, expresses a desire to see the source of the endless rain before he leaves this kingdom. This is not a casual observation, it is a destination, a goal, a place he intends to reach. Remember this, the source of the rain, the blue lake. It will matter later, when everything else has been resolved, when Quirrel's journey reaches its final, quiet conclusion. But for now, he simply sits in the rain, feeling a strange pull toward this weeping city, a memory just out of reach, a sense that he has been here before, that this place meant something to him once, that the rain is trying to tell him something he has almost, but not quite remembered. The dream nail, if used on Quirrel here in the City of Tears, reveals another fragment of his inner world. His thoughts are becoming more complex, more layered, more connected to the buried past that is slowly pushing its way toward the surface. Each encounter with the night, each new location Quirrel visits, brings another piece of the puzzle closer to alignment. He does not yet know that the puzzle exists, does not understand that he is assembling a picture from fragments of a life he lived before the forgetting. But the pieces are there, accumulating in the quiet spaces of his subconscious, building toward a moment of recognition that is still several encounters away. The City of Tears accelerates this process, because the City of Tears is a place that demands emotional response that makes it impossible to remain detached. The rain falls on Quirrel and something stirs in the depths of his erased past, something connected to water, to falling, to the sound of a vast quantity of liquid making its slow, patient way through stone. He does not know why this matters, he only knows that it does. Let the sound of that rain fill the quiet space behind your closed eyes. Endless gentle rain, falling through stone, collecting in ancient streets, washing over a scholar who sits and listens and does not try to make it stop. Let it become the rhythm of your breathing, in and out, like rain, like the gentle, tireless weeping of a city that remembers what it lost. Quirrel's journey takes him even to the darkest corners of Hallownest, to places where most travellers would turn back, where the air itself seems hostile, and the silence contains things that are better left unseen. In Deepnest, the vast underground network of tunnels and caverns that lies beneath the fungal wastes, where ancient spiders and nameless horrors make their home in absolute darkness, you find Quirrel sitting in a hot spring. Of all the places to find a scholar, this might be the most unexpected and the most perfectly Quirrel. He is relaxing, in Deepnest, in the most terrifying region of the entire kingdom, surrounded by creatures that could kill him without effort. He has found a warm pool and decided to take a rest. He invites the knight to join him, cheerfully noting that these waters are excellent for tired legs. He speaks of Deepnest not with terror but with matter-of-fact acknowledgement. A cruel place, no doubt, he admits, yet even here, moments of peace can be found. He mentions a distant village further into the darkness, a settlement whose inhabitants never accepted the rule of Hallownest's king. Even in Deepnest, Quirrel is gathering information, noticing details, building a picture of the kingdom's political and social landscape. He's doing what scholars do, even in conditions that would make most scholars abandon their research and run for the exit. There is something deeply comforting about Quirrel's presence in Deepnest. In a section of the game designed to make the player feel isolated, frightened and overwhelmed, finding Quirrel in a hot spring is like finding a candle in a dark room. He reminds you that not everything in the darkness is dangerous, that peace can exist alongside terror, that a warm conversation and a quiet rest can be found even in the worst of places. He does not minimize the danger of Deepnest. He simply chooses to focus on the moment of calm rather than the surrounding threat. It is a deeply mature approach to fear, the kind of equanimity that comes from either extraordinary courage or the simple habit of choosing wonder over worry. It is worth noting that Quirrel carries a nail. He is not defenceless. Throughout his journey he bears a weapon, and when the time comes at the teacher's archives he wields it with considerable skill. Quirrel is not a bumbling academic who survived Hallownest through luck and the kindness of strangers. He is a capable fighter who chooses in almost every situation to observe rather than engage. He sits in the hot spring in Deepnest not because he is unaware of the danger, but because he has assessed it and decided that this moment, this warm water, this brief respite, is worth the risk. He chose his resting place with the confidence of someone who knows he can defend himself if needed, but who prefers not to, who sees violence as a last resort rather than a first response. This makes his gentle nature not naive but deliberate. He is gentle by choice, not by limitation. He could fight, and when the moment demands it, he will fight. but given the option, he would always rather sit and talk and wonder and rest. There is a quiet bravery in that, the bravery of choosing softness in a world that rewards hardness, of putting down the weapon when you could just as easily pick it up. In Crystal Peak, high above much of Hallownest, where the air is sharp with the hum of vibrating crystals, and the tunnels are lit with a cold, brilliant light that reveals everything without warming anything, Quirrel's mood shifts. Here, he watches the miners, the bugs who were once just workers, ordinary people doing ordinary jobs now turned by the infection into mindless automata, endlessly swinging their picks at rock faces, endlessly toiling without purpose or rest or awareness that anything has changed. The crystal light illuminates their tragedy with merciless clarity, and Quirrel feels it. He speaks of their fate with genuine sorrow, calling it terrible, expressing sadness for creatures trapped in an existence that has been stripped of all meaning. This is significant because it shows that Quirrel's wonder does not make him naive. He does not look at everything through rose-coloured glasses. He sees the suffering, acknowledges it, feels it. His ability to find beauty in Hallownest's ruins does not prevent him from recognising the horror that created those ruins. He holds both truths simultaneously, the beauty and the tragedy, the wonder and the grief, without letting either one cancel the other out. This is perhaps the most remarkable thing about Quirrel's character. He is not an optimist pretending the world is fine. He is a realist who has chosen to notice beauty alongside ruin, who refuses to let the presence of suffering erase the existence of wonder. Breathe, slow your thoughts, let them drift like the jellyfish that float through Fog Canyon, translucent and gentle, carried by currents you cannot see. The story is moving toward its centre now, toward the moment when everything comes together, when Quirrel's forgotten past rises to meet his wandering present. But we are in no hurry. The story will wait for you. It has been waiting for a long time. And now we come to the heart of it, the Teacher's Archives, Fog Canyon. Fog Canyon is unlike any other region in Hallownest. It is a place of mist and suspension, where visibility is limited and the air is thick with moisture that catches light and scatters it into soft, diffused halos around every glowing surface. Jellyfish drift through the caverns, enormous umas and smaller womas, their translucent bodies pulsing with light as they move through the fog. Some researchers believe Monomon herself was responsible for these creatures, that she created or cultivated them as part of her studies, that the entire ecosystem of Fog Canyon was shaped by her research. If so, Fog Canyon is not just a natural environment. It is a laboratory, a garden, a living extension of Monomon's mind and work, still functioning, still drifting, still beautiful, even though the gardener has been asleep for longer than anyone can remember. The Teacher's Archives sit at the centre of Fog Canyon, a structure that served as Monomon's home, her workplace, her sanctuary. It is here that she conducted her research, here that she trained Quirrel, here that she eventually sealed herself in eternal sleep. The archives are now guarded by Umu, a massive jellyfish-like creature that protects Monomon's chamber with a gelatinous membrane that conventional weapons cannot penetrate. Umu is infected, orange light pulsing through its transparent body, but it remains in its post, still guarding, still protecting, the last servant in a teacher's empty house. When the night reaches the Teacher's Archives and confronts Umu, something happens that does not happen anywhere else in the game. Quirrel appears. He arrives at the battle drawn by the same pull that has been guiding him since he first entered Hallownest, and he fights alongside the knight. This is the only time in the game where Quirrel participates directly in combat, the only time where his role shifts from observer and companion to active participant. He strikes Umu's membrane, piercing its protective layer, creating openings that allow the knight to deal damage. Without Quirrel's help, Umu cannot be defeated. The knight needs him, and he is there, because he was always going to be there. Because every step of his journey, every location he visited, every conversation he had, was leading him to this moment. And when Umu falls, when the Guardian is defeated, and the path to Monomon's chamber is clear, something else happens. Something that has been building since the first moment Quirrel set foot back in Hallownest. He remembers. The mask on his face, Monomon's mask, the one he has carried without understanding for years, the one that protected him and erased him in equal measure, its purpose is revealed. Quirrel removes it. He takes the mask from his face and breaks the final layer of Monomon's seal, the layer that was placed on him specifically, the safeguard that Monomon created when she gave him the mask and sent him away. By removing the mask, Quirrel completes the task that Monomon set for him. He does what she always intended him to do. He returns the mask, dissolves the protection, and opens the way for the knight to reach Monomon and break her seal. And in that act of removal, in that moment of giving back what was given, the memories return. Not all of them, perhaps. Memory is not a faucet that turns on and off so neatly, but enough. Enough to understand who he was, what he did, who he served, where he came from. Enough to remember Monomon, her name, her face, the years they spent together in the archives, the work they did, the conversations they had, the laughter, the discoveries, the quiet satisfaction of understanding something new, the companionship of two minds working together toward a shared purpose. All of it comes flooding back, carried on the same tide that carried it away. Quirrel speaks after the battle, and his words are heavy with the weight of recovered memory. He understands now. He understands that Monomon called the knight here just as she called him. He understands that the seal must be broken, that Monomon's sleep must end, that the teacher he just remembered must die. He understands that Monomon designed this outcome, planned for it, prepared him for it without his knowledge, without his consent, because she could not protect him from the duty without protecting him from the knowledge of the duty. And he is grateful. That is the most devastating part. Quirrel is grateful that he forgot. He tells you, in so many words, that forgetting was a mercy. He says he is thankful that Monomon stripped the memory from him, because carrying the knowledge of what was coming, living with the awareness that one day his teacher and closest friend would need to die, waiting for that day with full understanding of its inevitability, that would have been unbearable. Monomon spared him that. She gave him years of blissful ignorance, years of wandering without the weight of grief, years of being a scholar without a past rather than a scholar, counting down to a loss he could see approaching but could not prevent. Think about that. Think about someone you love making a decision to protect you from grief, and that decision costing you the memory of their face. Think about the kindness wrapped inside that cruelty, the love expressed through erasure. Think about Monomon sitting in her archives, preparing to sleep forever, looking at her student, knowing she was about to take his past from him, and doing it anyway because the alternative was worse. Because watching him carry that weight for years, watching him wait for her death with full knowledge of its necessity, that was something she could not bear to inflict on him. Forgetting was gentler. Forgetting was kinder. Forgetting was the only mercy available in a situation where no mercy should exist. After the night breaks Monomon's seal, after the teacher is gone and her dreaming mind is extinguished, and the seal she maintained is dissolved, Quirrel is left standing in the archives, the place where he studied, the place where he learned, the place where his teacher lived and worked and eventually chose to die. He stands there with his memories recovered and his teacher gone, and he does not break, does not rage, does not collapse. He simply understands. He accepts what happened the way Monomon accepted it, the way scholars accept things, not with resignation but with comprehension. He sees the shape of the story, sees how every piece fits together, sees the logic and the love and the sacrifice and the cost, and he holds it all without flinching. Let your body sink deeper into wherever you are resting. Let the mattress or the pillow or the couch accept your weight completely. You do not need to hold yourself up. You do not need to maintain any tension at all. Just let go, the way Quirrel let go, the way he released the mask, the way he released his teacher, the way he released the past he had only just recovered. Let go and rest. There is something worth pausing on, here in the quiet space between Quirrel's revelation and his final appearance. Something about what the removal of the mask means for Quirrel physically, not just emotionally. Several details in the game suggest that Monomon's mask was not only protecting Quirrel from the infection and concealing a layer of the seal, it was also, in some way, sustaining him, preserving him, keeping his body in a kind of stasis, slowing the effects of age, maintaining his vitality across the years and years of wandering. When Quirrel removes the mask, he speaks of feeling his age. This is a small, quiet detail, easy to miss, but it carries enormous weight. Without the mask, time catches up. The years he has lived, the decades perhaps, come rushing in. His body, which the mask had been quietly holding in a kind of preservation, begins to feel the accumulated weight of all those years at once. He does not say this dramatically. He does not scream or stagger. He simply mentions it the way you might mention feeling tired after a long walk, but the implication is staggering. Monomon's mask was not just protecting his mind by making him forget. It was protecting his body by making him, in some sense, timeless. And now, that protection is gone. This adds another layer to Monomon's gift and its consequences. She did not just take his memories, she gave him time. Extra years, extra life, sustained by the magic of her mask, bound to the power of a dreamer's seal. When Quirrel wanders outside Hallownest for all those years, he does not age the way he normally would because the mask holds him in place. When he returns to Hallownest and finally removes the mask, all of that suspended time begins to assert itself. The bill comes due. The years he was given are the years he now has to pay back. Monomon gave him a loan of life, and the mask's removal is the repayment. This knowledge reframes everything about Quirrel's final appearance by the Blue Lake. It is not just a scholar resting after a long journey. It is a man feeling the weight of unnaturally extended years finally settling into his bones, feeling the borrowed time running out, knowing that the mask that kept him alive and young and protected is gone, and that what remains of his natural lifespan is very, very short. But we will get to the Blue Lake. We are almost there. Let the story carry you. We are nearly at the end. We need to understand what Quirrel has lost, truly lost, to appreciate what he finds at the end. In breaking Monomon's seal, Quirrel has participated in the death of the person who meant more to him than anyone else in the world. He remembers her now. He remembers the warmth of her teaching, the patience of her guidance, the quiet pride she took in his discoveries. The way she would explain something complex as if it were the most natural thing in the world, and then smile when he understood. He remembers all of it, and the person at the centre of all those memories is gone. She died because she chose to die, because she planned for it, because she made it part of the solution to a problem too large for any single being to solve. But she is still gone, and Quirrel is still here, standing in her archives, surrounded by her work, holding the mask she gave him, carrying the memories she returned, and missing her in a way that has no language adequate to contain it. The grief Quirrel feels must be extraordinary. It is not the grief of sudden loss, not the sharp, violent grief of unexpected death. It is something gentler and more devastating, the grief of understanding. He understands why Monomon did what she did. He understands the logic, the necessity, the love that motivated every decision she made. He understands that she chose this, that she prepared for it, that she designed his entire journey as a mechanism for bringing about her own death at the right moment, in the right way, by the right hands. He cannot be angry at her because he understands her too well. He cannot blame anyone because no one is to blame. He can only grieve and understand and accept and carry the weight of both the remembering and the loss. But Quirrel does not stop. He does not sit in the archives and wait to join his teacher in death. He does not curl up in the ruins of his recovered past and refuse to move. He continues. He keeps walking, keeps observing, keeps being Quirrel, because that is who he is, the wanderer, the scholar, the one who finds beauty even in broken things. And there is one more thing he wants to see before his journey ends, one more place he wants to visit, one more beauty he wants to witness. The source of the rain. The blue lake lies above the City of Tears in the resting grounds, a peaceful area where the dead are honoured and dreams are studied. The lake is the source of all that rain, the vast underground body of water whose overflow drips down through layers of rock and stone and ancient architecture to fall forever on the city below. The rain that Quirrel heard in the City of Tears, the rain he wondered about, the rain that moved him enough to say he wanted to see its source before he left this kingdom, it comes from here. From this still, luminous, achingly beautiful lake. And this is where you find Quirrel for the last time. He is sitting by the shore. His nail is planted in the ground beside him, point down, like a walking stick set aside. He is looking out over the water, and the expression you imagine on his face, because the game's art style does not show expressions the way a photograph would, is one of profound, complete peace. He speaks to the night when they arrive, and his words are some of the most beautiful and most heartbreaking dialogue in the entire game. "Again we meet, my short friend," he says. "Here at last, I feel at peace." He tells the night that he has seen this world twice now, once as Monomon student, when Hallownest was alive and thriving, and once as a returning wanderer, finding it in ruins. And though his service stripped the first experience from him, he says he is thankful that he could witness its beauty again. The first time was taken from him, the second time was given back, and rather than mourning the theft, he chooses gratitude for the return. He looks at the night, this small, silent vessel who has been his companion across an entire kingdom, who has fought beside him, sat beside him, listened to him, without ever speaking a single word, and he says something extraordinary. Hallownest is a vast and wondrous thing, he says, but in as many wonders as it holds, I have seen none quite so intriguing as you. He is telling the night that of all the marvels in this kingdom, of all the ancient structures and hidden caves and lost civilizations and beautiful, terrible, awe-inspiring things he has seen, the most fascinating thing he has encountered is the night themselves. A small, silent, determined creature who keeps going, keeps fighting, keeps exploring, without ever explaining why. The night is a mystery Quirrel cannot solve, a wonder he cannot fully understand, and he loves that. He loves the mystery of the night the way he loves all mysteries, with warmth and curiosity and a refusal to reduce something complex to something simple. "Ha!" he says when the night, predictably, says nothing in return. My flattery returns only silent stoicism. I like that. I like that very much. If you use the dream nail on Quirrel at the Blue Lake, you catch his deepest thought, the one that sits beneath all the others, the one that contains everything he has been and everything he has experienced. To live an age, he thinks, yet remember so little. Perhaps I should be thankful. All tragedy erased. I see only wonders. Let that sink in. Let it settle like rain on stone. All tragedy erased. I see only wonders. Quirrel has lived an impossibly long life. He has forgotten most of it. The forgetting took his teacher, his purpose, his identity, his home. And when the memories came back, they brought with them the knowledge that his teacher was dead, that his borrowed time was running out, that the kingdom he loved was beyond saving. He has every reason to be bitter, to be angry, to feel cheated by a world that gave him consciousness and then spent his entire existence taking things away from it. But he is not bitter. He is not angry. He chooses consciously and deliberately to see only wonders. He chooses gratitude over grief. He chooses to remember the beauty rather than the loss. He chooses to sit by a lake and feel at peace, because peace is a choice, and Quirrel has always chosen the gentler path. When you leave the Blue Lake and return later, Quirrel is gone. Only his nail remains, planted in the earth by the shore, standing upright like a marker, like a monument, like a quiet flag planted by someone who has finished their journey and will not be needing their weapon anymore. The game never tells you what happened to Quirrel. It never explains where he went, whether he walked into the lake, whether he simply lay down and let the years he'd been holding at bay finally claim him, whether he found some other path, some exit, some continuation that the game does not show. The ambiguity is deliberate, and it is perfect because Quirrel's ending is not about the specific mechanism of his departure. It is about the peace that preceded it. However Quirrel left, whatever happened after the night walked away, he was at peace. He had seen what he wanted to see. He had done what he needed to do. He had witnessed the beauty of a world twice, once with full memory and once with wondrous forgetting, and he had found that both experiences in their own ways were gifts. Many players believe Quirrel walked into the lake, that he chose to end his life there, at the place he'd wanted to see most, at the source of all that rain, at the most beautiful and peaceful location, in a kingdom filled with beauty and peace and tragedy and wonder. If that is true, then his death was not a tragedy. It was a completion. He had finished his journey. He had fulfilled his purpose. He had remembered, been grateful, and found peace. What more could any life ask for? Other players believe he simply moved on, that he left Hallownest for a second time, heading out into the world beyond, perhaps to find new mysteries, new wonders, new places to sit and observe and marvel. If that is true, then Quirrel is still out there somewhere, still wandering, still curious, still finding beauty in unexpected places. Either interpretation is valid, either one is beautiful. The game gives you both and asks you to hold them gently, without needing to decide. The only thing left behind is the nail, a weapon resting by a lake in a kingdom that is quiet now. The game awards an achievement for this moment. It is called Witness. Not hero, not saviour, not champion. Witness. You did not save Quirrel. You did not fix his problems or prevent his departure. You simply sat with him, listened to him, shared a quiet moment by a lake, and then watched him go. And the game calls that worthy of acknowledgement. It calls it an achievement. Because sometimes that is what people need most. Not to be saved, not to be fixed, not to be given answers or solutions or grand gestures of intervention, just to be witnessed, to have someone sit beside them and be present, to have someone listen without trying to change anything, to have someone see them, truly see them, in a moment of honest peace. Quirrel did not need the night to save him. He had already saved himself in the way that matters most by finding peace with who he was and what he had experienced. What he needed from the night was exactly what the night gave him: silent company, patient presence, the simple act of being there. And the game tells you, through that small word on the screen, that being there was enough, that witnessing was enough, that sometimes the most important thing you can do for someone is just to sit beside them and let them know they are not alone. Let us sit here for a while, by the blue lake, the way Quirrel sat. Let the water be still. Let the air be cool and clean. Let the gentle glow of bioluminescence from the depths below light your rest the way it lit Quirrel's final conversation. You do not need to think about anything. You do not need to solve any puzzles, defeat any enemies, break any seals. You just need to rest, the way Quirrel rested, the way he chose rest after a lifetime of wandering, the way he chose peace after a journey that carried him across the breadth of a kingdom, and through the full arc of remembering and forgetting, and remembering again. Quirrel's story is about many things. It is about the bond between teacher and student, the way a good mentor shapes not just what you know but who you are. It is about the mercy of forgetting, the way memory can be both gift and burden, the way losing your past can sometimes feel like freedom. It is about the gentle courage of curiosity, the way wonder can armor you against despair, the way looking at the world with open eyes can make even the darkest places bearable. It is about the inevitability of loss and the choice of how to carry it. It is about sitting by a lake after everything is over and choosing to feel gratitude rather than grief. But most of all, Quirrel's story is about what it means to be a good person in a world that is falling apart. Not a hero. Quirrel does not save Hallownest. He does not defeat the infection, does not restore the kingdom, does not accomplish any grand objective. He is not the player character. He is not the chosen one. He is just a scholar, a wanderer, a kind soul who moves through a dying world and leaves it slightly better than he found it, not through great deeds but through small ones, through sitting next to someone who is tired, through offering advice to someone who is struggling, through finding a warm spring in a cold place and inviting a stranger to share it, through treating a silent, voiceless vessel as a person worthy of friendship and respect. The world does not always reward kindness. Hallownest does not reward Quirrel for his gentleness, does not offer him a happy ending, does not give him his teacher back, does not restore his memories without cost. But Quirrel does not need the reward. He is not kind because he expects something in return. He is kind because kindness is who he is. It is the foundation of his character, the thing that the mask could not erase, the quality that survived forgetting because it was too fundamental to be lost. Even without his memories, even without knowing who he was or where he came from, Quirrel was kind. Because kindness was not something he remembered, it was something he was. Let that be the thought that carries you towards sleep tonight. Not the loss, not the tragedy, not the ambiguity of Quirrel's final fate. Let it be the kindness. Let it be the image of a gentle scholar sitting in a hot spring in the darkest place in the world, inviting a stranger to rest. Let it be the warmth of his greeting at every new encounter, the genuine pleasure he takes in the knight's company, the way he sees wonder in a world full of horror. Let Quirrel's kindness be the blanket that wraps around you as you drift off, warm and soft and asking nothing of you except that you rest. There is something else worth saying about Quirrel's story, about the way it connects to the larger narrative of Hallownest, about the way one quiet scholar's journey reflects and illuminates the grand tragedy of the kingdom itself. Hallownest was built on a fundamental mistake. The Pale King believed he could solve the problem of the Radiance by creating a being without mind, without will, without voice. He believed he could manufacture emptiness, create a vessel so hollow that nothing could fill it, not even a god's desperate need to be remembered. But emptiness is impossible. Life resists emptiness the way water resists stillness. The Hollow Knight developed an idea instilled, a thought, a feeling, a flicker of something that made true containment impossible. The Pale King's plan failed because you cannot create a being that feels nothing. Consciousness, once kindled, will find its own shape, its own direction, its own way of being alive. Quirrel's story is, in a way, a mirror of this truth. Monomon tried to create a kind of emptiness in Quirrel, not the total emptiness of a vessel, but the emptiness of a mind wiped clean, a past erased, a slate washed blank by the act of leaving Hallownest. She sent him away knowing he would lose his memories, knowing he would become someone without a history, someone defined by absence rather than presence. And he did lose his memories. He did become, for a time, a scholar without a past, but he did not become empty. The thing that made Quirrel who he was, the curiosity, the kindness, the wonder, those things survived the forgetting because they were not memories. They were something deeper, something structural, something woven into the fabric of his being at a level that memory does not reach. When the Pale King tried to create emptiness, the Hollow Knight still felt love for its father. When Monomon tried to create forgetting, Quirrel still felt wonder at the world. In both cases, the essential self persisted despite every attempt to erase it. This is one of the most beautiful and most hopeful ideas in Hollow Knight. The idea that who you are, truly and fundamentally, is not something that can be taken from you. Not by a king, not by a god, not by the erasure of memory, not by the passage of time, not by the fall of kingdoms or the death of teachers or the slow crumbling of everything you once held dear. The core of you persists. The essence survives. Whatever it is that makes you you, it is deeper than memory, deeper than history, deeper than the worst thing that has ever happened to you. It is the thing that remains when everything else is gone. Quirrel proves this. He loses everything, his teacher, his memories, his home, his identity, his borrowed years, and yet he never stops being Quirrel. He never stops being curious. He never stops being kind. He never stops looking at the world with wonder and finding beauty in unexpected places. He is the living proof that the self is not the same thing as the memory, that who you are is not merely the sum of what has happened to you. That identity is something more resilient, more stubborn, more beautiful than anyone gives it credit for. Let that truth settle into you as you rest. You're more than your memories. You're more than your history. You're more than the things you have lost or the people you have said goodbye to. You're something deeper, something that persists, something that will still be you tomorrow morning when you wake up. no matter what you are dealing with, no matter what has been taken from you, no matter how much the world has changed since you first closed your eyes. The core of you is safe. The core of you is sound. The core of you is resting now, the way Quirrel rested, the way he sat by the lake and felt at peace after everything. The kingdom of Hallownest is full of characters who deal with loss in different ways. The Pale King dealt with it by trying to control everything, sacrificing his own children in a desperate attempt to force a solution. The Radiants dealt with it by refusing to be forgotten, infecting an entire kingdom rather than fading from memory. Hera dealt with it by bargaining, trading her life for a daughter's existence. Lurien dealt with it through devotion, sealing himself away as an act of love for his king. Quirrel dealt with loss by accepting it, not passively, not weakly, not from a position of resignation or defeat. Quirrel's acceptance is active, deliberate, chosen. He looks at what has been taken from him, he looks at what remains, and he chooses to focus on the remainder. He chooses gratitude. He chooses wonder. He sits by a lake and says, "I see only wonders," and he means it, not as a denial of the tragedy, but as a conscious decision about where to direct his attention. The tragedy happened. The loss is real, but so is the beauty, so is the wonder, so is the lake and the rain and the quiet company of a small silent friend. Quirrel does not deny the darkness. He simply chooses to face the light. This is what makes Quirrel's story so perfect for a night like tonight. Because nights like tonight, the quiet hours when you are lying still and the day is finally done and there is nothing left to do but rest, these are the times when the mind sometimes turns to its own losses, its own worries, its own private catalogue of things that went wrong, or might go wrong, or can never be fixed. And Quirrel's story does not tell you that those things do not matter. It does not tell you to forget your troubles or pretend everything is fine. It tells you something much more honest and much more helpful. It tells you that you can hold the loss and the wonder at the same time. You can acknowledge the grief without letting it consume you. You can sit with your troubles the way Quirrel sits by his lake, peacefully, accepting them as part of the landscape, noticing that the landscape also contains beauty. You do not need to solve anything tonight. You do not need to fix anything, change anything, decide anything. All of that belongs to tomorrow. Tonight, you can just sit by the lake. Tonight you can let the worries be there without engaging with them, the way Quirrel let the ruins of Hallownest be there without despairing over them. Tonight you can choose to see the wonders. The rain continues to fall on the City of Tears. It has been falling for longer than anyone can remember, and it will keep falling long after the last bug in Hallownest has gone quiet. The rain does not care about kingdoms or kings, about infections or cures, about scholars or teachers or the students they left behind. It falls because the lake overflows. It falls because water follows gravity. It falls because that is what rain does. Quirrel understood this. He understood that the world continues regardless of what happens to the people in it. The rain does not mourn. The lake does not grieve. The stone does not remember. But Quirrel remembered. And in his remembering, in his choice to witness, to pay attention, to care about a world that does not care back, he made the rain mean something. He made the lake mean something. He made even the ruins and the silence and the loss mean something, because he was there to notice, to appreciate, to find beauty in the endless, indifferent falling of water through stone. This is what attention does. This is what presence does. This is what it means to be someone who sees wonders. The world is not inherently meaningful. It does not arrange itself into stories or lessons or morals. But when someone like Quirrel moves through it, when someone pays attention with genuine curiosity and care, meaning appears, not imposed from outside, not manufactured or forced, but discovered, noticed, revealed by the simple act of looking carefully at what is actually there. The wonders Quirrel sees are not projections of his desire. They are real things, real beauty, real complexity, that most people walk past without noticing. Quirrel notices, and by noticing he creates a world worth living in, even when that world is dying, even when that world has taken everything from him. Maybe you can carry a little of that with you. Not tonight, not now, you are too close to sleep for carrying things, but maybe tomorrow, when the morning comes and the world is loud again, and the day's demands begin their familiar pressure. Maybe you can remember Quirrel for a moment. Maybe you can look at something you would normally walk past, something ordinary, something unremarkable, and really see it. Maybe you can notice the way light falls through a window, the way steam rises from a cup, the way a stranger's face looks when they're thinking about something they love. Maybe you can see a wonder, small and quiet and entirely real, hiding in the ordinary fabric of your day. Quirrel would like that. He would like that very much. But that is for tomorrow. Tonight there is only rest. There is a particular kind of loneliness in Hallownest that Quirrel shares with some of its other inhabitants. Elderbug, sitting on his bench in Dirtmouth, waiting for travellers who may never come, carrying the weight of being the last one who stayed when everyone else left. The last stag, running his routes through empty stations, maintaining a transportation network for passengers who are all gone, finding purpose in a system that no longer serves anyone. Cornifer, humming his little tune as he maps tunnels that lead nowhere safe, driven by a love of his craft that transcends any practical consideration. These are the ones who stayed, the ones who kept doing what they do, the ones who found meaning in routine and purpose in persistence, even when the world stopped rewarding either. Quirrel is part of this quiet community of survivors, this loose constellation of bugs who have not given up, who continue to be themselves despite every reason not to. He does not save the kingdom. Neither does Elderbug, or the last stag, or Cornifer, or the nailsmith, or Sly from his little shop. None of them change the outcome of the infection, or the seal, or the Radiance's desperate fight for survival. They simply exist, with grace and authenticity and a refusal to let the end of everything mean the end of who they are. They maintain their identities the way the Mantis Lords maintain their honour, not because it will save them, but because it is right, because it is who they are, because some things matter even when the world does not reward them. Quirrel is perhaps the purest expression of this idea. He is the one who says it most clearly, through his actions and through his final words by the blue lake. The world is falling apart and he sees wonders. The kingdom is dying and he finds beauty. His teacher is gone and he feels gratitude. Everything is ending and he chooses peace. This is not denial. This is not delusion. This is the most profound form of courage Hallownest has to offer. The courage to remain soft, to remain open, to remain yourself, in circumstances that would harden and close and transform anyone who was not paying very careful attention to who they wanted to be. And you, lying here tonight, breathing slowly, drifting towards sleep, you are doing the same thing. You are choosing rest in a world that does not always make rest easy. You are choosing stillness in a life that pulls you in 100 directions. You're choosing, for these quiet minutes, to let go, to stop holding, to stop striving, and to simply be. Quirrel would understand that perfectly. He would recognize that choice and honor it. The nail stands by the lake. The water is still. Somewhere far below, rain falls on a city that remembers nothing and forgets nothing. Somewhere in the archives, the shelves are empty and the tubes are dark and the teacher's chair sits unoccupied, waiting for a meeting that will never happen. Somewhere in Greenpath, a moss knight still patrols its ancient route, guarding a purpose it has long since forgotten. Somewhere in Deep Nest, a hot spring steams in the darkness, and the space beside it is empty now. But if you close your eyes, you can almost imagine a gentle voice inviting you to rest. Quirrel is gone, and Quirrel is everywhere. His journey through Hallownest left no monuments, no statues, no plaques or memorials. He was not a king, not a knight, not a warrior or a dreamer. He was just a scholar who loved the world and paid attention to it and treated every living thing he met with dignity and warmth. But in the memories of every player who encountered him, in every quiet moment of recognition, when you found him sitting in an unexpected place and felt a rush of relief and gladness at seeing a friendly face, in every conversation where his warmth and his curiosity and his gentle humour made the loneliness of Hallownest feel a little less absolute, Quirrel lives. He lives in the attention he paid and the attention he inspired. He lives in the way of seeing that Monomon gave him, and that he in turn gives to everyone who encounters his story. Quirrel taught the knight, and teaches the player, that you do not need to be powerful to matter. You do not need to save the world to have mattered to someone in it. You do not need to defeat the final boss, or achieve the true ending, or break every seal and solve every puzzle. Sometimes, mattering just means being there, being present, sitting on a bench next to someone in a city of rain and saying something kind, finding a hot spring in a terrifying place and sharing it with a stranger, looking at someone who cannot speak and seeing, not emptiness, but wonder. The nail stands by the lake, the water does not move, and somewhere, maybe in dreams, maybe in the space between games and players, between stories and listeners, between waking and sleeping, a scholar with a curious mind and a gentle heart is still wandering, still watching, still finding wonders in the most unexpected places, still choosing to see beauty, always, even at the end of everything. Rest now. The journey is complete. Quirrel found his peace by the blue lake, and you can find yours here, wherever you are, in whatever quiet corner of the night you have made your own. Let your breathing slow to match the stillness of the water. Let your thoughts drift like the jellyfish of Fog Canyon, translucent and weightless and carried by currents you do not need to understand. Let the story fade into silence, the way all stories fade, not because they end, but because the listener has moved into a space where stories are not needed anymore, where rest takes over, where the mind lets go of words and images and characters and simply exists in the warm, dark, peaceful nothing that comes before sleep. Quirrel sits by the lake. The night sits beside him. Neither one speaks. The water is still. The rain falls far below on a city that will weep forever, and the sound of it, if you listen very carefully, is like the sound of a kingdom remembering what it lost and choosing, despite everything, to call it beautiful. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for spending this time with Quirrel, with his journey, with his memories and his forgetting and his quiet, extraordinary grace. Thank you for caring about a scholar in a video game, for finding meaning in his story, for letting his journey become part of your night. And thank you for trusting these words to carry you toward rest. Quirrel would thank you too if he could. He would sit beside you, wherever you are, and he would look at you the way he looked at the night by the blue lake, with warmth and curiosity and a deep, genuine appreciation for the mystery of another living being. And then he would say something kind, something generous, something that makes you feel seen and valued and not alone. And then he would be quiet, because some moments are better without words, and the moment just before sleep is one of them. The nail stands by the lake. The water is still. The scholar is at peace. And so, now, are you. Sleep well. Dream of wonders, and when you wake, carry a piece of Quirrel with you into the light. Look at the world the way he looked at it. Find the beauty in the broken things. See the wonders that are hidden in plain sight, and know that the gentlest soul in Hallownest would be proud of you for trying. Good night.